What is up, everyone? Today I'm showcasing a team that was supposed to be just a fun squad, but did better than I was expecting. Especially Drifblim did so much better than my expectations. Drifblim is only ranked number 191 in the Ultra League, so not good at all, but it did so well in these battles. I'm running Hex, Shadow Ball and Mystical Fire, and with this moveset, it is a very good core breaker for a duo I've been seeing quite often, Steelix and Virizion. I'm pairing it with Tapu Fini and Skeledirge. The whole idea behind this team was to kind of run my old favorite Great League team, Azumarill Double Ghost, but in the Ultra League. So that's why I'm running Tapu Fini and Skeledirge alongside the Balloon. This trio definitely isn't as good in the Ultra League now as it was in the Great League back in the day though, as there are quite a few core breakers. So it's not a team I'd really recommend, but it did pretty well for me. I'm at 9-6, so it's positive enough for me. And I also almost reached Veteran, so that was pretty nice. Anyway, we're gonna head into these battles, starting off with a Steelix lead. Very good for Tapu Fini, but they switch in Golisopod. This was the first battle I played with this team, and when I saw this come out, I was like, dang, I forgot about this Pokemon. It's so good into this team, and I didn't know what to do, so I brought out Skeledirge. Big mistake. I should have really just stayed in Tapu Fini, as it actually has kind of a neutral matchup versus the Golisopod. You will generally lose that as Tapu Fini still, especially if they're running Aerial Ace, but it can at least have some play, where Skeledirge kind of sucks. I brought it in because, as you can see, the Incinerate damage is adding up, and I was hoping that could outpace, but no, it definitely can't. But at least the Incinerate damage is adding up. Oh, I go for a Disarming Voice, hoping to get another shield there, but no shield, which just puts me in an even worse spot. I've now lost Switch, I've lost shield advantage. Yeah, I don't think I can win this game anymore, but maybe there's something in the back I can beat, and it ends up being Virizion. And this is what Drifblim is made for. Drifblim is one of the best answers to deal with Steelix Virizion core, and that's what my opponent is running. I go into Drifblim now. They can't stay in with Virizion versus Drifblim, because if they're not running Stone Edge, which most Virizions aren't running Stone Edge, then it can't really do any damage versus the Balloon. So switching Steelix, I go for my Mystical Fire, and that did a surprising amount of damage, as well as the buff their attack. So right now I'm feeling pretty good about this. Drifblim, even with a shield down, should be able to take care of the Steelix. They're going to end up shooting the second Mystical Fire. They definitely should have shielded the first, by the way, but I think they just weren't expecting the Drifblim to fire off a fire move. So I think most people might still be expecting Icy Wind. Is what I've noticed in these battles. So I guess that's why they didn't shoot. Anyway, I'll let another one go. Both shields down now. My Tapu doesn't have much energy, but it should have enough health to Water Gun the Virizion later if it comes to that. I'm going to Shadow Ball here, because I'm pretty sure it does more than a Mystical Fire, even though it's super effective. Mystical Fire isn't the strongest move. Shadow Ball is really strong, and Stab, so it does a lot. Virizion comes in, it's going to save my Drifblim. At this point, Tapu should even be able to farm down the Virizion, or force them to waste their energy, which they throw now. They throw a Leaf Blade, and now they shouldn't have enough energy to Leaf Blade my my Drifblim before I hex him down and we win this battle. GG. Okay, next match. Very awkward lead. Jellicent. Another core breaker to this squad. I would say Drifblim is kind of even here, but Tapu and Skeledirge definitely lose. So not the greatest, but I'm kind of happy to see it here. Maybe my Tapu can do some work. I go straight for the Moonblast. It's kind of tempted to bait here, as well, pretty obvious. I'm gonna go for the Moonblast first. So I thought they might shield, but they didn't. So good call by me. At this point, I'm gonna let Tapu go. It's brought the Jellicent into a range now where I can shield once with my Drifblim and farm this thing all the way down. I only need 4 hexes for the next Shadow Ball. As for Shadow Ball, it's 5, 5, and then 4 hexes, or 3. So I wouldn't outpace him. So I just shield that up, farm down. Actually switch out of the Skuntank though. Another core breaker to this team. This is just really, really bad. First crunch is 7, which they are at right now. So I throw the Mystical Fire right before. Second is gonna be 6 Poison Jabs, by the way. So they're 1 over the first crunch. They need 5 more, which means I can now throw 3 more hexes before they can get to their next crunch. They're there right now. Because of the first debuff, by the way, I was able to survive their first crunch. I didn't shield that because they might get the defense roll. Alright, they were already at the crunch, but they decide to over-farm, which is a huge mistake as I get to another Mystical Fire. This is the third one. I'm gonna bring in my Skeledirge. This is a triple dropped crunch. I'm gonna let it go. And it does nothing? I mean, I knew that was dropped, but that still did way less than I was expecting. In comes Cobali, and these always run Stone Edge, and they get there on 5 double kicks or 3 Incinerates, so I throw exactly then on the CMP. Kind of a mistake maybe, because I could have actually just snuck in a full Incinerate here if I hadn't thrown at that point. But I think it's still fine, as long as I can farm this thing down in 3 Incinerates before I can get to the next Stone Edge. This was only 4 double kicks after the first Stone Edge, so this should only be a Sacred Sword. It is. I survive. If Skuntank comes in, I have to throw Disarming Voice immediately, as it's gonna get to another crunch. Otherwise, I do get there. This will knock out the Skuntank. Can I knock out the Jellicent? And I do. I outpace to the Shadow Ball, and this will knock out that Jelly. That is a GG versus 2 pretty hardcore breakers. Swampert in the back. Another Skuntank. Oh my goodness. And I struggle a little bit. I didn't know what to do yet. So I switched in Skeledirge after doing a couple Water Guns. Shield up the Crunch. And now we're going to Disarming Voice. Skeledirge, as you can see, is doing quite a bit of fast move pressure with these Incinerates. And a good amount of damage with that Disarming Voice too. I really wish they shielded that though. But they didn't. At this point, I'm just going to double shield Skeledirge. This is like, I don't know. I don't know if this is any good for me. I'm going to Disarming Voice the Swampert though. Hopefully get a shield. I'm expecting a shield here, since the Shadow Ball will do quite a bit. Do shield it. Unfortunately though, I'm not able to get to my Shadow Ball. They can Hydro. At least we forced them to use some energy here, so that's nice. This will take out my Skeledirge, and now it's all up to shields down Tapu and Drifblim to take care of the Swampert and whatever's left in the back, which could be anything at this point, really. Would be ideal if it was a Virizion, to be honest. Then I might be in a pretty good spot, but anything else would be pretty rough. It's a Weezing, and that is definitely pretty rough. Weezing always packs Brutal Swing, and a second move is usually Play Rough or Overheat. In this case, it's not really gonna matter what the second move is, as Brutal Swings can basically finish off both of my Pokemon. I'm gonna go for Mystical Fire here, expecting a shield, but they don't shield. No, I wasn't expecting a shield, I was hoping for a shield. At that point, I felt like that might have been the only way to win. But yeah, even if I had gotten the shield, I wouldn't have made the Shadow Ball there, so it doesn't end up mattering. And I just surrendered the game because it was over at that point. Alright, Weezing lead. And I bring out Golisopod, which this is looking pretty bad for me right now. As Golisopod is a big core breaker for all 3 of my Pokemon. And Weezing is pretty nice versus both of my back Pokemon, as I can hit both of them for super effective with Brutal Swing. So yeah, I can't really switch out of my Tapu though. As, like I said, Golisopod beats my 2 back Pokemon, so I couldn't. Also, they liquidationed me and sadly dropped my my defense twice in a row. That is really bad. Still making it to this Moonblast though. Will warrant a shield probably. And now I'm bringing in Skeledirge to hopefully be able to farm down this Golisopod. I have so much energy though, and I'm forced to shield. Don't think Disarming Voice knocks out yet, so I should probably go for the Shadow Ball. But, man, I also don't throw. I thought they weren't at 2 moves yet. So I waited a turn there to make sure they couldn't catch this Disarming Voice. But it ends up biting me, as they were 2 moves and they threw the liquidation. So, yeah, I had to shield that. Now I'm 2 shields down and there's a Weezing still on the field. Luckily, I don't think I'm in Brutal Swing range yet on my Skeledirge. But I'm pretty sure they will be able to get to 2. Actually, no, I just snuck one through. They had bad timing. My opponent gives me an out here by throwing on back time and giving me a full Incinerate. This means I can get to the Shadow Ball before they can get to another Brutal Swing. This knocks out the Weezing. Is there something in the back I can beat with Drifblim? It appears there is. GG. Alright, Charizard. Very good lead. Out comes Greninja though. Very tough Pokemon for my backline, and honestly, surprisingly tough to deal with for Tapu Fini, as this thing puts on a lot of pressure with Hydro Cannons, which even resisted do a decent chunk of damage, and these Water Shurikens, once I've taken enough, will put me into a range where 2 Hydro Cannons will knock out. I'm just gonna go straight Surf here though. Should still be okay for Tapu. Let this move go. Another Hydro. Puts me in range for a 3rd Hydro, actually. Gonna go for another Surf. And at this point, I think I played it a little risky. Because I decided to just let Tapu go. And try to get to a Disarming Voice with Skeledirge. this point, I'm just hoping I can keep a shield. I knew I could probably reach another Surf with Tapu there, but I would have to use 2 shields. And I'd rather use 2 shields on my Skeledirge to maybe get like an energy lead there. But look at how quickly these moves are coming out. I can't get an energy lead here at all. I'm just gonna have to throw my move, my Disarming Voice immediately, but they don't allow me. They bring in Charizard. A Shadow Ball will do a very good amount of damage here, but not enough to where I can farm down. And the problem is, I'm probably gonna have to throw another charge move into this, but I can't really, because if the Greninja comes out, then it's just gonna be able to outpace me. So that's the problem. But what I decide to do is save that energy on my Skeledirge, bring in Drifblim to farm down. I'm gonna take another Blast Burn, but Drifblim is kind of tanky, so I take it. And then hope I can sweep. Ends up being Warren in the back, which I'm gonna hit with a Shadow Ball before they can get to the move. Warren takes 5 Powder Stones to get to each of their moves. So, ooh, I'm barely not able to reach a Shadow Ball there. I do hit the Mystical Fire though, which should bring the Warren to range where Disarming Voice knocks. Oh, actually? Oh no, that was my mistake, I think. Disarming Voice is like 25%, which might have been enough there. Might have been enough. And then I would have been able to outpace. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to knock out the Warren with Disarming Voice, so I throw the Shadow Ball, but because of that, I don't reach the Disarming Voice on the Greninja and I get knocked out. But that Disarming Voice might have just barely been enough to knock out the Warren, so I should have at least tried to go for it. Alright, Golisopod lead. This is pretty awkward, but this is where I want to see it, I guess. This one's running Aerial Ace, which is definitely worse for me than X-Scissor and Liquidation. Luckily, no defense drops this time, though. Every single Golisopod I faced shields the Surfs. Golisopod is like a Pokemon that people use to just force switch advantage, no matter how many shields they have to use, to be honest. I'm gonna go for the Moonblast second, though. Every time I faced Golisopod in Elite twice, or 3 times, I think. And every single time, I'm very much considering throwing the Surf, because I know they're gonna shield, but I think it's too risky. So I throw Moonblast anyway, and they do shoot it up. I'm gonna bring in Drift. They overfarm. Actually, the 2 Golisopods I faced in the lead where I did this kind of play, they all overfarmed too much. Because I think they're expecting Icy Wind. They weren't expecting me to hit them with a neutral move and Mystical Fire. They save all that energy and then bring in a Registeel. Luckily, I do have a coverage move for this though. In Mystical Fire. Actually does a decent chunk of damage. Drops the attack. Now, probably means I'm able to survive a Zap Cannon. The very nice thing about Drifblim in this Registeel matchup here is that Drifblim has an insane HP pool. If I wanted to, I could probably stay in this matchup and get to another Mystical Fire. And I am gonna do that. Look at that. Those Locons are doing no damage, as Drifblim's HP stat is incredible. And with each Locon only doing 1 damage, it's gonna take a lot of them to farm down a Drifblim. Alright, Golisopod comes back in to my Skeledirge. Now I'm gonna have to shield up this move. I'm gonna have to throw a Disarming Voice as well, so I'm pretty sure they get to another Liquidation otherwise. So I throw it, and now just gotta hope there's something in the back I can beat. Virizion maybe with Leaf Blade and Sacred Sword would be really nice. But no, it's Charizard. Still, this might be doable though. Shadow Ball will put this low. Maybe in farm down range. Problem though, I think a Blast Burn will knock out my Skeledirge. So I switch to Tapu, hoping I can farm this down. But they get to the Dragon Claw. I do have a Mystical Fire on Drifblim though. I'm pretty sure if I can throw it into the Zard, I can farm down the Registeel with Skeledirge. But they catch it on Registeel. What a great call by my opponent there, realizing what I was gonna do. And that allows him to now farm down my Drifblim with a Regi and get to a move first, my Skeledirge too. If it hadn't gotten to that move, maybe I could have survived whatever this Charizard is throwing at me and farmed him down or gotten to Disarming Voice. But with that move, definitely able to knock me out. So that's a GG. That was very well played by my opponent there. Okay, Alolan Sandslash lead. Definitely happy I see this here. Though, Drifblim actually has a lot of play here. Drifblim is a flyer with a fire move. So even though you're taking super effective damage from Ice Punch and Shadow Claws, you're doing double super effective back with Mystical Fire. Pretty sure you don't win this matchup, because, well, Alolan Sandslash just way outpaces you, and Mystical Fire is not that strong of a move, so it doesn't one-shot. But at least you bring it closer than a lot of other flyers. Anyway, I was very willing to just let my Tapu go down after taking that 1 shield. and just sweeping with, or just sweeping up this A-Slash with my Skeledirge, but actually baited, which put me in an even better spot. I decided to try to do something stupid and throw the Incinerate, or switch in my Skeledirge, hoping they'd be very slow on the switch, but yeah, my opponent was too good, and was very quick on the switch into Golisopod, and my Incinerate unfortunately wasn't able to take out the Alolan Sandslash. Still, this is not the worst for me, as that Shadow Ball did quite a bit of damage, and I'm able to get the Disarming Voice right before they get to another liquidation. By the way, it takes 6 Shadow Claws for every liquidation, and they just got their 12th Shadow Claw, so that for the second liquidation, right when I threw the Disarming Voice, so that was good timing. Now comes Giratina. Oh, this is tough, this is tough. I can get over a Shadow Ball here. The Giratina is super tanky. They're going to shield it. I do have another Shadow Baller in the back though. So if I can hit Giratina with a Shadow Ball for my Drifblim, it should be in a good spot. This might be Ancient Power or Shadow Sneak, which is super effective. But the A-Slash also has a move store, so I don't want to throw it. I'm trying to catch on the A-Slash, but I was patient enough. And I'm able to throw the Mystical Fire into this Alolan Sandslash now to knock it out. Does knock out, and now I just gotta hope that a Shadow Ball for my Drifblim on Giratina is enough. I doubt it though, as Giratina is a very tanky Pokemon, and Drifblim doesn't have that much attack to begin with. Now I Shiro the Dragon Claw, because it's gonna be the hardest hitting move probably. Throw the Shadow Ball. Doesn't knock out the Giratina, but it might put it into farm down range from one of my other Pokemon. Tapu Fini of course takes double resisted from the Dragon Breath, so that's what I'm gonna send in first. And I am able to farm it down with the water guns. GG. Alright, another Steelix lead. This is what you love to see. Out comes Drapion, which is... Skundig is kind of fine for my Skeledirge, but Drapion is a pain. Though, at least I can take a crunch here, I guess. And the fast... I don't risk the fast who's knocking out. Actually, one thing I realized before I switched in my Drapion, or after I switched in my Skeledirge into the Drapion, I mean, is that most Drapion on the pivot, on the save swap, run Aqua Tail Crunch. So maybe I should have stayed in with Tapu Fini, but seeing as they threw a second Crunch onto my Skeledirge here, I can pretty confidently say it's probably Crunch Sludge Bomb, which means that that's the perfect coverage for my team. Pretty bad. They allow me to get to a Disarming Voice here. Again, opponents don't know what Skeledirge can do, and they just overfarm too much. As the Incinerate energy is quicker than you expect, and I just get to the Disarming Voices much faster. Anyway, since they had a Steelix lead, I'm expecting a very strong answer to Tapu Fini in the back, so I decide I'll just sack it here. Take a Sludge Bomb, Silver Surf stored. What comes out now? Virizion. I could have thrown the Moonblast into it, but I felt it was better to just switch it to Drifblim and start Mystical Firing the Steelix I was expected to come in. And once the timer is up, I can Surf Snipe him. So once the timer is up, I'll immediately switch into my Tapu Fini and then Surf him and probably take him out. Because after 2 Mystical Fires, it should be in a range where a single Surf from Tapu should knock out. Anyway, we're just gonna keep throwing these debuffing moves, and at this point, my opponent realizes that's gonna be over, so they actually just concede the match. Ooh, another Golisopod lead. This is a very interesting one. We've seen this one before. I'm just gonna no-shield every single move, go for the Surf Bait, and then try to go for a Moonblast. 5 Shadow Claws for each Aerial Ace, by the way. So they get to 2 Aerial Aces. Right after you get to your Moonblast, actually. You get to your Moonblast one turn before they get to their second Aerial Ace. But I decided to always just overfarm. They get to their third before I get to another Moonblast. So I'm gonna have to shield this. And now I'm gonna go for my Moonblast once I get it. And after this, I'm gonna switch out into Drifblim again. I don't want my Tapu to get farmed down by the Golisopod, because if it gets any extra energy, more extra energy, will be quite rough. Again, my opponent makes the same play as my previous opponent we saw, and no shields to his Mystical Fire. Then switches into a Mandibuzz. Ooh, yeah. I mean, this was bad even when you had Icy Wind. But now with Mystical Fire, without the ability to hit this Mandibuzz for super effective even, this is even worse. Luckily, because of the debuff, I was able to survive the Dark Pulse though, and I'm going to be able to fire off another one, and if it's hard to farm down, I'm probably able to fire off a third one. They won't allow me though, so I'm just going to let this go. Bring in Skeledirge. Skeledirge does have a super effective move in Disarming Voice, but sadly, it's not the strongest move, so probably won't even knock out from here. And Mandibuzz is also very tanky. Because of those double debuff we did earlier, that did like no damage, right? Well, not no damage, but Dark Pulse didn't do as much as I was expecting because of the double debuff we applied with Drifblim. Outcome for Virizion now. This is pretty nice. If this is not Stone Edge, which I just gotta hope it isn't. Actually, pretty sure they only did 4 double kicks as well, so it couldn't be Stone Edge. Oh, I try to catch on my Tapu, but they don't allow it, and they overfarm a good chunk, which is very smart, as now they'll be able to get to another Leaf Blade versus my Skeledirge, which means I'm gonna have to use a shield. Maybe I should have thrown my Disarming Voice there. Save the shield? Yeah, that might have been the play. Actually. Because the Mandibuzz still needs some Incinerate damage to be able to Disarming Voice it down. Because as you're gonna see, one of this doesn't knock out. And if I had just used the Disarming Voice on the Virizion, I might have been able to shield a move here and then Incinerate down the Mandibuzz, but actually looking at that health, it would have been impossible. And I still needed a move for the lead too, so no, I think this game was just over. Anyway, Steelix lead, and they switch out into Skuntank. Another Dark Poison. Yeah. We just go to Skeledirge again versus Skuntank. Skeledirge doesn't have the worst of matchups. Though, if they no-shield this Disarming Voice, they can actually just make me go 2 shields down. So, not ideal. And I'm gonna go 2 shields down. I think that's worth it. Actually, definitely not worth it. But we'll just have to hope it's Virizion in the back. I guess that's what I'm hoping for now. That's my win con. Hoping I can get my Tapu realigned to the Steelix, and then that Drifblim just hard counters something in the back. I can also throw a couple Shadow Balls into the Steelix, which is nice. One came through now, and now I'm going to throw my next. This will do a good chunk of damage. They're likely going to no-shield this, because they know Steelix is basically useless against Tapu. Staying in there. I was considering switching out into Tapu for a second there. Maybe Skeledirge could have been useful against the backline, but no. I'd rather just take switch, bring my Tapu in here, and wall the Virizion with my Drifblim. Unless they have Stone Edge. If they have Stone Edge, this might still be trouble, but they threw their move immediately. This is just a Leaf Blade, and it does nothing. It does nothing. I can go for my Mystical Fires now, and we're looking pretty good there. Even 2 shields down, Drifblim should be able to take care of this Virizion, and maybe even the Steelix afterwards. Opponent, I think, is still trying though. Doesn't realize the power that this balloon possesses. Another Mystical Fire coming through. Takes another shield. Leaf Blades are really gonna start doing nothing now. Like, absolutely nothing. Look at this. Strongest move in the game. Balloon doesn't care. Actually doesn't care. They tried to catch the Mystical Fire on the Steelix. Good attempt, but I was patient. I knew they were gonna try that, so I don't fall for it. I'm able to farm down the Steelix, but at that point, because they failed the catch, they know it's over. So they concede. GG's there. Anyway, that was the final battle there. As you could see, I had a lot of fun with this team. It's still not a team I would recommend, but if you already have like a Drifblim build, definitely try it out. Maybe in a different team though, but even this team can definitely be a lot of fun. Just be aware that Dark Poisons and Golisopod are gonna be a pain to deal with. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your battles, trainers.